Guys, welcome back to the garage. The 35 is going home today. It's pretty much roadworthy at this point, and I did a bunch more stuff since the second video. So let me show you guys that, and then we're gonna jump in this thing and go for a test drive. All right, so before we go inside and look at the dash and everything, I do want to point out the handles are back on the car. Now, the original handles were down here lower, and you might have caught that in the last video. Where I placed the bear claw latches, they were actually right in front of the handles, and that actually wasn't going to work. The handles kind of ran into these. Now, I knew that right away in the last video when I did install those, but it was really the only place those bear claws was going to be feasible. It was the best place in the door to place them. So basically, I just plug welded all these holes and moved the handles up dead centered on the body line, which actually, I kind of like that a little bit better. The car sits low anyway. Moving the handles up wasn't a big deal, and I kind of like them where they placed out basically dead center on this body line instead of being down low. It actually, you wouldn't really know if that this wasn't factory, I guess, in my opinion, especially if these grind marks weren't here. But no, those turned out really good. They work amazing. I did kind of a quicker job on them inside the door. My linkages are basically 3/8 rod in here, and I just used 1024 bolts, snug the nuts up, and just put a tack weld on the end of them. Now, usually I'll go all out and use 3/16 threaded rod with Heim joints on the end, so you can actually take it apart, turn the Heim joints for adjustment, and that you can actually change the pitch on your door handle on the door if anything comes out. But we were trying to get this done a little bit cheaper, and you know what? This works just as good. There's nothing wrong with doing it this way. It just leaves you with no adjustment. But looking back at them, I mean, that one's a little bit funny, but they're pretty level the way they are, so I think I got them pretty good in that respect. Also added some return springs down in here on all four doors. Back doors are done the same. Basically, this holds that lever up. It holds this latch on the bear claw all the way up, and that keeps the handle level on the outside, and it also keeps the handle from bouncing and tapping on this lever, potentially causing a door to open, which is a big deal. Not so much on the front doors, but on the rear doors where they're suicide, and if they open, they're probably gonna tear right off the car. Got all the gauges in. Everything is completely wired. This wheel detaches, but I'm not gonna pull it off right now. Redid the entire wiring harness in this thing, and plug welded a bunch of stuff on the dashboard as well. This was kind of all rotten down here. There were weird switches all over the place. I ended up going this route, cleaned it up a little bit, put an actual headlight switch in here, and down on the floor you can see, maybe you can't, right down there we got a dimmer switch too. So now we have high and low beams, where before they only had low beams. So it's cleaned up pretty good. Underneath, we're all tied up, we're tucked up. I know it's dark, it really doesn't pay. It's just a clean wiring harness under there. Did put a little electric heater in here. The plan on that was to actually, you know, basically it's just got two outlets on it, was to come up to the defrosts, but there's no defrosts in this car particularly. We could cut some in up here in the future and run the hoses up, so he has that option, but that's gonna be something we'll probably do in spring. Also got the shifter figured out, neutral safety's all hooked up and working properly. Put the old Frankenstein up here on top of the thing for a handle. He's a little heavy. He kind of holds down. A lighter handle would probably be a good option for that. What else? I guess, oh, these two knobs up here. This one is a interior light down there. It'll be nice if you drop your keys on the floor at night. That's on a constant battery, so you don't have to have the key on. Other one over here, it's another interior light. We had this deck lid emblem here, LED, and basically that'll just be like some accent lighting. It works pretty good for a dome as well, but it's just up there. Decided to throw it in for whatever reason, so that's kind of a backup dome light or accent lighting. Other thing you're going to notice is the windshield's in. It's actually not the windshield, it's just a piece of Lexan for right now. I cut and fit that, knocked the windshield frame apart, got that in, and basically he's got a good template now for someone to cut him a piece of glass. He's going to drive it home like this for now, have the glass made in spring, get it all set up in there properly. Other thing is too, I clearanced this out just to put this little windshield wiper on here that he had with the car. One other quick thing to mention, which I didn't really get into the wiring harness of the thing because obviously we did it off camera. Every single connection in this car is soldered and shrink tubed at this point. There's not a single butt connector in here. The only place there's an actual crimp connector is on terminations, basically where you go to a post, like on the gauges, the switches, or in this instance right here, the battery switch. And if you look in there, I always pull my plastics off my ring terminals or male and female blade connectors. I always pull the plastic off, slide a piece of shrink tube up. Once I crimp it, I slide the shrink tube down and do it this way, and that keeps a lot more moisture out of them. Plus I think it looks a little bit better that way. I think, that's my personal opinion, I hate seeing those yellow plastics all over the place on my terminations. The other thing is, I don't think I did it on these ones up here, but the terminations down on the starter, and I didn't do the alternator on this one, but like the solenoid down on the starter where the ring terminal comes in, where you're picking up road moisture and all that, you know, I might have did it on these too. I'll actually crimp the ring terminal and solder the ring terminal to the wire and then shrink tube it. It's a good practice to have when you're under the engine bay. I mean, it's just a solid connection that's going to last a very, very long time. Now we'll go for a ride. Alright guys, well, first stop, we're gonna go get some gas. Well, we are fueled up. Pulled back into the parking lot here before we hit the road because I'm not seeing the temp gauge go up. I'd like to see that move a little bit before we start cruising. So we'll let it warm up for a little bit and hopefully that gauge starts going. Oh, one other thing I didn't mention either is going to take the fuel tank back out. I didn't do it now because it was so cold out. I got to drill a hole in it to put the sending unit in the gas tank back there. And basically it was so cold I didn't want to mess with filling it with water to drill that hole in it, and I really don't feel like drilling a hole in it without having it full of water, so we'll do that when it's warm in spring as well. So right now the gas gauge doesn't work, but there is a dipstick in the top of the tank you can pull out and see how much fuel is in there. That was their original fuel gauge, so at least there's some way to do it right now. Well, our temp gauge is not moving at all. Alright guys, well, the temp gauge went up after a little while. I'm guessing there's not a thermostat in this thing, but we're good. It's been idling for a little bit. I got the cooling fan on and it seems to be hovering there down by the 150 mark, so let's go for a drive. Pretty nice. Nice and straight. Feels good. Man, it's windy out. First gear. Second. Good deal. Here's my test bump. Oh, went over that pretty nice. Well guys, I'd have to say it turned out pretty nice. I know it's not the nicest looking thing in the world, but if you guys didn't watch part 1 and 2 of rebuilding this rat rod, doing the repair, you would know what we had to start with. Obviously, I think it feels like it needs an accelerator pump. She doesn't respond very well, stuff like that, some tuning issues. The vacuum advance is not hooked up. There's no port on it, no progressive port on the carburetor for that, and nowhere in the intake at the current moment to hook it to direct. So you can tell the timing was advanced pretty far. It was hard starting when we left the shop last time, but I mean, that's minor stuff. At the current moment, this thing drives great. 2 fingers on the wheel cruising. We're probably going 65, 70 back there on that back road. It turned out good. I love that front look of the car now too, especially with those little headlights and eliminating that original bumper and everything that was on here. It looks great. And also with the suspension actually put on right. I mean, it looks correct now, so yeah, it looks pretty good. This is going to conclude our 3-part rat rod repair series. It's drivable now, it's safe, it feels good, handles nice. Got it good and muddy driving through this parking lot. That's just extra patina. Got that roof nice and wet too. That's going to be something to keep clean when it rains out. I'm also impressed with that. That thing didn't flap at all, and we didn't lose any snaps. It held down pretty good. I was talking about how the snaps are kind of spaced far on the side. They're actually tight on the front. They did that, you know, so it wouldn't peel off the car, but I didn't get a single flap or anything out of it. It's pulled nice and true, so that worked out really nice. All right, guys, well, that's going to be pretty much it. I'm going to get the heck out of here. Maybe go clean the windshield off a little bit for him when he arrives to take it home, and we'll start on the next project. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Muddy. Gotta clean that up. You didn't even scrape the grill on the ground. We'll see you later.